You ready?
Yeah.
Eddie, you're locked up suspicion of murder, alright? You don't have to say anything, but you may harm you eventually, don't mention when questioned. So you later line in court, and if you do say we evidence, do you understand?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
please.
I can't explain it.
Medicine.
Right.
Do it all on into it, alright?
most, the most difficult thing I ever had to do, oddly enough, was in one of the, I can't remember which one, but in one of the Harry Potters, I had to lay by that lake. There was like a frozen lake, and I'm sort of dead, and the soul is leaving. The most
In the 10 years since
difficult thing I ever had to do, oddly enough, was in one of the, I can't remember which one, but in one of the Harry Potters, I had to lay by that lake. There was like a frozen lake, and I'm sort of dead, and the soul is leaving my body, and then, you know, it appears.
They didn't make you do that, did they? Like make your soul leave your body?
They don't teach you that at RADA. Although I've had my soul sucked.
I mean, you've been an actor for decades, of course it's
Oh
happened.
my
yeah.
God, yeah, there have been moments. There have been some movies, I tell you, some directors that want your soul.
I'm sorry, I interrupted your wonderful story. What,
No, I don't even know if it's that wonderful, but it was just me laying down. But Harry Potter, they would shoot, it took forever. It was slow. And you'd be on a scene for a week. You normally could do, we could shoot this in 2 days. Anyway, I was on that. What they did was they built this lake inside the studio, and they cooled it down, and they froze this lake. And I had to just lie there for a week, day in, day out, doing nothing. Doing nothing, but then you'd have to get, God, like, my kidneys are really good. They're getting a bit cold, and then they put a little hot water bottle under you, and you lie there like that, and then day 3 you go, my neck is killing me in that position, and they'd put a little pillow underneath it. Yeah, hardest thing I had to do was lie next to a frozen lake.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Only 4 more Harry Potter movies to make. You know, you
Yeah,
just, like,
with a few still to go. Yeah, they killed me off too early. I'm still upset about that. And we were all taking bets. It's happened. And I was there going, no, it's going to be, maybe it's wrong. Maybe she, you know, and then you kind of open the script and you go, it's me. I'm out of here.
Did you have I mentioned Alan Rickman, I'm curious, like, did you have a relationship with him? Like, were you friends prior to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved him.
Yeah, apparently I saw you on the reunion special. You discovered for the first time that he was the only one that knew how the books ended. He got the inside dope from J.K.
He did. He had a very, he had a sort of big, he had a special relationship going with her.
So does that, I mean, you have so many roles, which we're going to get tip of the iceberg tonight, but like, is that's one that will reverberate for generations. That one must come up every day, every other day. Does it just, more than other roles you think, come into your life?
Yeah, it's the most frequently, if they ask me to sign a picture, then that's the one that comes up. I think my work is mediocre, but no, I do.
Well, I don't have words. Why? Why do you say this?
I don't know, maybe if I had read the books like Alan, if I'd got ahead of the curve, I would have played. If I had known what to play, I honestly think I would have played. Yeah, I mean that's just my own. My wife. Just ridiculous. She often does.
Vice posted this legendary documentary, some of its participants ended up in jail, some successfully turned their life around, whereas others died unexpectedly. For context, the production followed a former gangster named Sean Smith, who was trying to live a life on the straight and narrow by running a debt collection business and the Muscle House Gym, where the show introduced many of Sean's associates. Firstly, there was Nat Taylor, who'd had a rough childhood and after years of self-medicating, had also spent time in what he described as the city's nut house. Despite this, Nat was an extremely promising boxer and was training for a shot at the title provided he could stay clean.
He is a top kid and his talent is unbelievable. It's just that his problems he's had.
The documentary then introduced Davey Fallon and his friend Stu, who were caught selling steroids in the gym and were punished in a pretty memorable way.
The tax is $1,000. You give me $1,000. Keep your job, stay in the gym.
Only made more notable by the words exchanged afterwards.
I gotta come to you.
Finally, there was Tony Smith, who was supposedly Sean's best friend.
He's my right-hand man, everything goes through him. He's my best mate. It's called loyalty. You can't buy it. He's like my dad.
Until the end of the episode when Sean revealed Tony had also been selling steroids.
The little cockroach was already selling steroids in and around the gym unaware to me.
And as a result, Tony had gotten in his car and left to avoid consequence.
Here's the little cockroach now, look at him, left his beard, left all his kids. Look at his head in his hands, look, he's like, oh. You seen him on it?
After the episode ended with the narrator stating this:
Tony is still on the run. His family fears if he comes back, he may go on the missing list forever.
It's no surprise commenters wrote, Tony's betrayal is genuinely one of the best twists I've ever seen, and it's in a documentary of all places, although the betrayal turned out to be fabricated for the show, but we'll talk about that later. The documentary gave a unique look at some pretty scary people, although it was also made incredibly relatable by displaying the mental health struggles experienced by these very tough guys.
I don't sleep. I'm on like 150 ml of serotolin, 80 milligram of propranolol, 7.5 milligram of sopracone, depression, anxiety, panic attacks.
Although with so many crazy characters on such volatile paths, it makes you wonder what happened to them afterwards. In May 2014, roughly 8 months after the documentary went live, The Sun gave its first update on both Sean Smith and Nat Taylor, for whom business was booming as a result of the episode. Just 3 months after The Sun posted their update, Vice uploaded a new documentary titled Underground Bare Knuckle Boxing in the UK, where at around the 21-minute mark, a shirt can be spotted in the background reading Sean Smith the Debt Collector. Sure enough, there was Sean hosting bare knuckle boxing matches, which he'd been promoting at the front of his gym, with the poster also revealing he'd begun his own fighting company called Ultimate BKB. Sean stated, we're the only gym in the UK that has a bare knuckle academy, so we get interest from all over the world, it's only getting bigger and bigger, leading Sean to receive a deal with Netflix, filming a 3-part series in 2017 called Bare Knuckle Fight Club. He'd state, when I was in prison, if someone had told me that I would end up on Netflix and have Hollywood types on the phone, I would have told them to F off, although simultaneously Sean didn't want to come across as a celebrity gangster who traded on a notorious past. Despite this, Sean released a book titled Debt Collector, which received pretty decent reviews on Amazon, before trying to launch another company called Gorilla Con Clothing, which was dissolved 2 years later. In the process, Sean rebranded from the Muscle House Gym to a more personalized Smithy's Gym, after which Sean fell out of the public spotlight, only to return a year later with some pretty tragic news. On the 14th of November 2018, the Liverpool Echo published an article reading, a blaze ripped through Sean Smith's gym in the Busey area of Warrington in August. The Echo understands someone forced their way into the building and then doused the gym in petrol. The blaze destroyed thousands of pounds of equipment and gutted much of the interior. Police have said that the fire was believed to have been deliberately started, although given his name, job and history, Sean seemed pretty unsurprised about what had happened.
I don't know who it is, I don't care who it is. You know, if people want to do silly antics going around burning people's gyms and cars, then so be it. That got done 20 years ago. It won't stop me. I'm here for good. I now own a building, and it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes.
His life had become so crazy, people began to comment they should really make a movie based upon Sean's life, truly fascinating, and it seemed Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had the exact same idea. The Liverpool Echo stated, Mr. Smith says he's now involved in advanced stage negotiations with production companies and agents who are interested in dramatizing his life story. One of the people who saw it was Dwayne Johnson, who is The Rock. He liked it and asked Vice about acquiring the rights. Vice Studios in LA rang up and we sold them the rights with a view to them selling them onto The Rock, although the movie was never made, with Sean again disappearing from the public, sparking an even crazier rumor. Sean is dead now. Lucky him, he doesn't need to face harsh winter of 2022 cause high gas price and inflation, while another user wrote Sean's already dead FYI. However, these comments were apparently baseless, as in mid-2023, he'd return with 2 unexpected podcast appearances where he'd provide some pretty crazy updates. On Matt Legg's podcast, he'd explain he was clean from all medications.
I haven't took none of them tablets now for 18, maybe 20 months, and I feel fucking great.
Whilst on James English's podcast, Sean revealed he was embarrassed by the documentary's title.
And they called it UK Scary's Debt Collector, which it's fucking embarrassing. It shouldn't have been the UK Scary's Debt Collector. It should have been the UK's Mediator. But TV people being TV people sounds better, doesn't it?
And he'd therefore never even seen it.
I've never watched it. I won't watch this. I've never watched the Vice or the YouTube.
However, the most interesting part about these 2 podcasts were the updates Sean gave on his associates from the show. Toward the end of the documentary, Nat Taylor explained that he'd finally been diagnosed with unstable personality disorder, and as a result he was feeling confident about his future.
I feel a lot more positive and more confident that I'm going to nail it this time, that I'm going to beat me demons.
The narrator concluded by stating Nat was clean and doing well, which sadly didn't last forever.
Oh, Nat, I don't really see him now. He got a bit of jail. He come out of jail. He took his own ear off.
He took his ear off?
He took his own ear off, yeah. Swallowed it.
Yes.
Yeah, swallowed it, yeah. He went in a real dire place.
Although Sean then added that he's now doing extremely well.
Nat's doing good. Brilliant boxer. He's working back with his brother. He's off to drugs. He's training.
Which is supported by an unverified comment reading, "For all those interested, Nat now has a beautiful girlfriend and 2 boys. Happy ending, I guess, that guy went through hell." In addition to Nat Taylor, Sean said that slapping Stu for selling steroids led to him turning his life around.
Oh, the kid who was slapped. The one with the tattoo, because that slap done his life the way it good. The tattoo's gone. He's got a normal job now.
However, his friend Davey Fallon had a much sadder ending. After enjoying a day with friends at the Glastonbury Festival, Davey went to his girlfriend's apartment and tried to climb through the bedroom window after an argument, but lost his grip on the windowsill and fell, unfortunately leading to his death.
Poor kids fell. Only like 11 foot. Banged head dead.
Only made worse after Sean was blamed for the incident.
And you know, he was dirty bastards. Putting things on the site. Sean killed him. Sean threw him out the window.
However, there was one more person in the documentary who generated more intrigue than anybody else. Did anyone find out what happened to Tony? Is Tony dead yet? Anyone have any idea if Tony has since been caught? What happened to that Tony fella in the end? Sean catch up with him? Bro, I don't think Tony is coming back. Googling Tony's name yielded no results, with the only alternative being to sort through hundreds of comments in the hopes of finding somebody that had any idea what had happened to him. Instead, we accidentally discovered a gold mine, a full explanation from Tony himself. "Hi, I'm Tony and I would like Vice to get a hold of me so I can tell the truth about Sean and that documentary. Just thought I'd say I never left town and have seen Sean on multiple times and nothing has happened. I didn't have him off. The truth is I was selling steroids for him. He says he's drug free, might be now but not when I knew him. He's moved out of Warrington himself cause of death threats. I've got no hard feelings. He did me a favor cause I've got my own gym now and teach so much more stuff now. My side of the story is we were selling roids in the gym and Sean wanted more money and said I'd ripped him off and I hadn't, so he told me to leave the gym and I did and moved down the road and I'm still there 13 years later and doing well, thanks. I've made a short video asking Vice to come and interview me and find the real truth about the hardest debt collector. The said video has seemingly now been deleted, however his other videos confirm that this is in fact Tony. By instead googling his YouTube name Anthony Smith, it shows that Tony did in fact open his own gym called Spartan Boxing, and if he's telling the truth about everything else, it would explain why he and Sean had such an intense reaction to the other guys selling steroids in their gym, because Tony and Sean already were. Toward the end of the documentary, Sean stated Tony's had me off for $3,500, which is a lot of money, to which Tony responded with, "There was no betrayal. Did you not notice Sean never says what I owed him money for?" implying that Sean had something to hide. Tony's fabricated betrayal might have instead been orchestrated by Vice, however there was something about that ending that always felt a bit too perfect. From using aimbot during a live CSGO tournament to completing Super Mario 64 with a see-through blindfold, these are the dumbest streamers who are caught in 4K cheating, beginning with Elm0, who accidentally left his aimbot on whilst trying out for a professional esports team. Up until this point, Elm0 had built up a respectable 3,000 Twitch followers for his impressive Apex Legends
The year's 1994, and you want to buy a Nissan car, but you're not going to leave your house. I mean, we have technology. So instead, you'll go on the internet and pull up Nissan.com, right? Well...
What the hell is that?
Nissan Computer Corporation, a small business located in North Carolina. Somehow they got control of Nissan.com before, the car company. But it wouldn't be long before Nissan Motor took notice. And by take notice, I of course mean take Nissan Computer to court and drag it on for almost a decade. This is the battle for Nissan.com, a tale of how one man stood up against a large corporation in court and won.
From humble beginnings.
In 1991, a man named Uzi Nissan started up Nissan Computer Corporation. He'd been using his last name for his business ventures since the early 80s, even before Nissan was known as Nissan here in the States. Back then, they were still largely known as Datsun. Now by 94, the internet wasn't quite ubiquitous, but it was catching on. Uzi figured a website wouldn't be a bad idea, so he registered Nissan.com. As for why Nissan Motor didn't have a website yet, we don't really know. But, as the saying goes,
You snows, you lows.
But of course, Nissan Motor would want to join the internet eventually, and they'd want to use Nissan.com, so in 1995, they sent Uzi a letter. They expressed their concern over his use of the name Nissan in his domain name, since they technically own the rights to use the word Nissan on its own. He promptly ignored them though, and also registered Nissan.net in 1996. What a guy. Fast forward to 1999, and Nissan decided to take a more direct approach. They sent a representative over to North Carolina to open negotiations with Uzi. Naturally, he turned them away, but they just came back 2 months later. And this time, they refused to leave until Uzi named a price. But much like the Milk.com guy, he quite liked his website and wasn't going to give it up for any small sum. So he told them $15 million. Do you understand now? I don't want to sell. Well, they left straight away, but 2 minutes later, Uzi got a call. Nissan Motor sued Nissan Computer for 3 reasons. Trademark infringement, because they technically own the rights to the word Nissan by itself while Uzi did not. Trademark delusion, because Uzi's website ran ads, specifically ads about cars. Fair enough, I mean, people were going to Nissan.com, seeing ads about cars, and they weren't Nissan cars. And finally, cyber squatting. which was clearly not true. I mean, Uzi was actually using his website for his business, so this charge was dropped quickly. New Year's came and went, and thankfully the world didn't explode. The court orders Uzi to add a disclaimer to Nissan.com stating that it's not affiliated with the car company and providing a link to their website. Come 2002, the court reaches a verdict. They find Uzi's website guilty of trademark infringement and ban him from using it for commercial purposes. He also can't badmouth Nissan on it or run ads. Both Nissans appeal this decision, as the car company still wants the website, and as for Uzi...
Today I can tell you that it ruined every aspect of my life. Financially, family, your health, everything.
At this point, Uzi basically had nothing to lose, so in 2004, the battle escalated to the Court of Appeals. Nissan Motor owned the trademark for the word Nissan by itself, but in order for this trademark to be protected from dilution, it needed to be considered famous before 1991, which was the year Nissan Computer was established. Now, how do you do that? I don't know. And neither did the court because they couldn't reach a verdict. Instead, they sent it back to the district court. Now it's 2007. This whole thing's been going on since 1995. Uzi Nissan's life has basically been ruined by now. In their initial lawsuit back in '99, Nissan Motor demanded $10 million in damages. They decided they would finally drop that claim in exchange for a bench trial. If you don't know what a bench trial is, it's a quick, informal trial where the judge alone asks questions, pieces info together, and makes the final decision. It's a lot easier to be screwed over that way, and Nissan Motor was banking on it. But thankfully, Uzi actually ended up winning. He was once again allowed to use Nissan.com for his business, run ads, and publicly insult Nissan Motor. The court even awarded him $58,000 to help make up for the $3 million he spent in court fees. Cool. So naturally, Uzi made sure that anyone who came to his website after this point was well aware of the lawsuit. And that was pretty much where this story ended, until recently. Uzi himself sadly passed away from COVID in 2020, but his estate remained dedicated to keeping his website up and running. That was until it was stolen. Yeah, seriously, sometime in 2022, a thief impersonated Uzi's family and took ownership of the website. Since then, the website's seen a couple different changes. At one point, everything was removed except the contact info, and then it came back except it was a static image of what the website used to be, and then it was an ad for an AI radio station, and now it's nothing. I'm not sure if Nissan Computer is even a thing anymore, but I hope Uzi's estate can regain control of his website. I mean, he literally ruined his whole life trying to save it. I think it's the least they could do.
How powerful was Elrond? He seemed to spend most of his time in Rivendell rather than engaging directly with the enemy, but what powers did he have? Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. If you'd like to see more videos about great fantasy stories like The Lord of the Rings, A Song of Ice and Fire, and The Witcher, please click on the subscribe button. Elrond is clearly pivotal in both forming the Fellowship and constructing the plan. Gandalf seems to defer to him in many ways, wanting to wait until the ring was in Rivendell and he had Elrond's counsel before deciding on the next steps. And we know how powerful Gandalf is. So, how powerful is Elrond? Well, let's start with his heritage. Elrond was known as the Half-Elven, for although he had mostly elven heritage, he was also part human, counting such luminaries as Beren and Tuor among his ancestors. And he was also part Maya. His great-great-grandmother was Melian the Maya. The Maiar are those spiritual angelic beings who serve or served the Valar, like Gandalf, or indeed Sauron. Because of this, at the end of the First Age, the Valar gave Elrond and his twin brother Elros a choice, whether to be counted among the elves or men. Elrond chose the elves, his brother, men. Elros, incidentally, still lived a long life by human standards as the first king of Númenor. It's why his descendants as Númenorian monarchs also lived long lives, albeit shorter each generation. Much later, Aragorn's long life, he lived to be 210 years old, stems from this ancestor. But back to Elrond. After his brother sailed for Númenor, he settled in Lindon in Middle-earth with Gil-galad, the king of the Noldor elves. During this time, he seems to have grown in wisdom and knowledge, and particularly increased his skills in healing. We know the story of when Sauron disguised himself as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, and worked with Celebrimbor to forge the Rings of Power, but it's often overlooked how that wasn't where Anatar tried first. First, he tried to ingratiate himself with Elrond and Gil-galad, but they refused him, perhaps not knowing exactly who he was, but sensing that all was not right. And when it all went wrong, and Sauron's duplicity was revealed, it was Elrond who led the elven force to oppose his invasion, founding the outpost of Imladris in the process, which became known as Rivendell. We often think of Gandalf as having the role of chief opponent to Sauron, but compared to Elrond, Gandalf was actually quite late on the scene. Elrond fought in the last alliance of elves and men against Sauron, was there when Isildur cut the ring from Sauron's hand and urged him to destroy it then. And throughout the Third Age, it was Elrond who led the resistance, front and centre, and Rivendell the de facto home of the resistance to the Shadow wherever it appeared. He led the fight against the Witch King of Angmar in the north across several battles, kept the shards of Narsil safe for when they would be reforged, and when the northern kingdom of Arnor finally fell, he kept the other symbols of Númenorian kingship, the Sceptre of Annúminas and the Ring of Barahir, safe too. Not only this, but he took up the habit of fostering the heirs of Isildur in Rivendell, generation after generation, century after century, so that each could grow to maturity and wisdom in safety in Rivendell, before heading out to the wilds as a Ranger of the North. This, it has to be said, was probably more than just the action of a good man. Elrond, remember, had a familial relationship to the Númenorians. His twin brother had been the first king there, and Elendil's heirs retained that heritage. When the White Council of the Wise met to discuss how to oppose Sauron, it always involved Elrond, and usually met at Rivendell. He was part of the raid on Dol Guldur that finally pushed Sauron into the open. Even during the story of the Lord of the Rings, it's clear that Elrond is directing events from behind the scenes. It was he who chose the members of the Fellowship, gave the commission to Frodo, and got his smiths to reforge the sword that was broken. He sent his sons to aid Aragorn in the final battles, encouraged him to pass through the paths of the dead, releasing the dead men of Dunharrow, and even remotely supported the decision to lead an army on Mordor as a distraction to buy Frodo some more time. His earlier decision to refuse permission for Aragorn to marry Arwen unless and until he was king of both Gondor and Arnor was also surely an important moment in Aragorn embracing his own destiny. Yes, the more you dig into it, the more you see Elrond's hands directing events throughout the last years of the Third Age. Is this power? Perhaps not as we might immediately think of it, but the influence of his work behind the scenes across the entire continent is undeniable. And Elrond was personally powerful. Take healing, for example. Gandalf describes him as a master of healing. Only he could save Frodo from that Morgul blade wound, and when Aragorn is in the halls of healing in Minas Tirith, about to fulfill the prophecy that the hands of the king are the hands of a healer, amazing everyone with his skills, he wishes Elrond were there, for Elrond, he said, had the greater power. Elrond also has powers to protect and preserve Rivendell. This is, at least in part, due to him being the holder of Vilya, one of the three rings. Elrond had been given it by Gil-galad, and although we don't hear of any specific powers that it possesses, it is mentioned as being the most powerful of the three. It certainly seems to have had the ability to preserve Rivendell, and those in it, against the ravages of time and the approaching shadow, hiding it from Sauron's gaze. When the ring's power was ended with the destruction of the One Ring, Rivendell was soon abandoned by the elves as they headed west. As for other powers, Vilya as the Ring of Air surely did have some. Gandalf's ring gave him great powers over fire and Galadriel's over water, so it makes sense if Elrond had some powers over air, even if we don't see them firsthand. When the river Bruinen rose up to wash away the Nazgul outside Rivendell, that was Elrond. We read of Elrond using telepathy to communicate with Gandalf, Galadriel and Celeborn, and there can be little doubt also that he had some quite impressive gifts of foresight. At the Council of Elrond, when Frodo offers to take the ring, Elrond says that, "I think that this task is appointed for you, Frodo, and that if you do not find a way, no one will. This is the hour of the Shire folk, when they arise from their quiet fields to shake the towers and councils of the great." Prescient indeed. So, was Elrond powerful? Yes, very, though he wore it lightly, and probably crucially, he did not seek power. He did not covet ruling a huge realm, but instead a simple valley. On Gil-galad's death, Elrond could probably have claimed the throne as High King of the Noldor, but didn't, instead turning his own home not into a palace, but the last homely house, a refuge for weary travellers, a support for the rightful kings of Arnor, and a meeting point for all those opposed to Sauron. It's noticeable that despite everyone looking to him for counsel and wisdom, he rarely commands people. He advises, he shares his knowledge and foresight, and offers his protection, but he doesn't demand people do as he says. It is, however, telling that they do as he suggests almost all of the time. Elrond was powerful, yes, but his power was more in his influence than shows of magical prowess. It is probably not overstating the case to say that without him, the centuries-long struggle against Sauron may well have been lost. He left Middle-earth a safer, wiser, and better place for his having been there, and that is much closer to Tolkien's understanding of true power than anything Sauron could ever dream of. If you'd like to see more Lord of the Rings videos, please click on the link on the left of your screen. Or if you'd like to support the channel or get access to some content I produce exclusively for my patrons, please click on the link on the right of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see
Hello there my RPG lovers and welcome to another video. Lord of the Rings universe seems like a perfect setting for an RPG.
We will do all we can.
We could see games based on the novels ever since the early 80s, and they only picked up a pace in the modern 3D era from the early 2000s when the movies came out. The massive popularity of the movies was obviously a big turning point for the games as well. It's not just about RPGs, of course. We could see some real-time strategies, action-adventures, MMORPG, an adventure card game, and the most recently we got a survival game in this universe as well. There are too many games to count, but in this video I'm going to focus on Lord of the Rings RPGs and action-adventures that I played in the last month.
Look closely.
I never played any of these games before, so it's safe to say that nostalgia will not be a factor here. So, buckle up.
I think it is time we told our newfound friends what they have gotten themselves into.
Fellowship of the Ring is the first 3D Lord of the Rings game, which came out in September 2002, almost a full year after the first movie with the same name. Interestingly enough, this game is not based on the movies, because EA held the right to the video game adaptation of the films that allowed the EA to implement the real scenes from the movies as cutscenes for the next two games we're going to talk about. The reception for this game was very average across all platforms, and after playing it for a while, I can definitely see why. In fact, I think the review scores for this game were a bit generous, to be honest.
I'd like to weed them Sackville Bagginses out of Bag End, if you get my meaning.
These multiple versions of the game had some notable differences, not only when it comes to the graphics. It seems like the Xbox version of the game looked a bit better, and it also played a bit differently compared to PlayStation 2 and PC versions. I can only talk about the PlayStation 2 version since that's what I played through emulation. But if you want to learn a bit more about different versions of this game, you should check out this video by Flandrew. Anyway, the game begins after a very short cutscene about a ring, and right after that, Gandalf arrives at Frodo's house. I was kinda surprised with the visuals in this game because it's not that bad as I expected. For a 2001 PlayStation 2 game, it looks pretty good, and the upscaling of the emulator makes it more than playable if you ask me. Well, playable is probably not the best word to use, but you know what I mean. I did have some visual glitches in the sky, but it's not a big deal, and you could probably fix this if you really want to play this game. It becomes pretty obvious that this game focuses a lot more on the adventure side of things rather than action. The combat is very simple and not so enjoyable, especially compared to games that came right after this one. One of the first quests you get to do in this game can be really frustrating and hard for absolutely no reason. You need to hide from the Black Riders, and gameplay-wise, this doesn't make any sense. The clunky controls only makes it worse, but this by itself is not a huge issue. The gameplay in general is just very simple and pretty boring if you ask me. You'll do some simplistic and boring quests, and not even the incredible Lord of the Rings universe could make this game feel fun to play. However, if you're a massive fan of Lord of the Rings movies and books, you might find it interesting, although that's not saying much. Only a few weeks after this game we got another action adventure within Lord of the Rings universe, but this time around, the focus of the game was much greater on the action gameplay. The Two Towers came out in October 2002, and it was developed by Stone